I'm Harold. How's it going? You ever wake up in the mornings and you think to yourself, God, I really want something really, really good to eat? Well, I wake up most mornings like that. So, when I woke up this morning, I decided, you know what? I want some fresh bread. So today I'm going to show you how to make a loaf of fresh bread. So here we go. Let's get started. First of all, you want to take 1 cup of warm water. It needs to be about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 45 degrees Celsius, somewhere in there. You don't want it to be too hot. You don't want it to be too cool. If it's too hot, it'll kill your yeast. If it's too cool, then the yeast just won't activate properly. So we're going to take our 1 cup of warm water. To that, we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Go ahead and give that a stir. Dissolve that sugar in there. Okay, and then to that we're going to add our active dry yeast. Go ahead and give that a stir. Just so all that yeast is dissolved in the water. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside for a moment. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes and we can see that the yeast, sugar, water mixture looks like it's pretty happy. We have a nice head on the top, kind of like you would find in a beer, nice stout beer, something like that. So that's good to go. Next, we're going to take our large mixing bowl, and what we're going to do is sift 3 cups of bread flour into the bowl. If you don't have bread flour, feel free to use all-purpose flour. It just means that your bread probably won't rise as much as it normally would have if you use bread flour. So we're going to go ahead and sift this into the bowl, just like so. This is just to get rid of any lumps you might have in your flour. And it looks like we don't really have any lumps in here. Awesome. Okay. Next we're going to make a little well in the flour. Use your finger, that's fine. To that we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm using pink Himalayan salt right now, but that's just because that's the only salt that we had in the house. Feel free to use iodized salt, sea salt, whatever you like. To that we're also going to add 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. Feel free to use canola oil, safflower oil, whatever kind of oil you feel like. Then to that we're going to add our yeast mixture. Go ahead and pour that in. And then we're going to start stirring. And what we want to do is just combine all those liquids with the flour to make a nice soft dough. This part may get a little messy, that's okay. The goal is to just have all the flour soak up all that excess liquid so that we have a nice soft dough. Alright, then of course we're going to have to finish this with our impeccably clean hands. And just gather it together, picking up all those flour particles until you have a nice soft dough. Okay, there we have our nice soft dough. Go ahead and put this out of the way. What you want to do next is lightly flour your surface. That way the dough won't stick to the surface. Also, you can stick your hands into it. The dough won't stick to your hands, of course. And then we're going to go ahead and start kneading. The reason we do the kneading, of course, is to build the glutens inside the bread. And so that it has a nice firm structure, so that when you get ready to let it rise, it will rise properly. So we're going to knead anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I'm probably going to knead for about 10 minutes, just to make sure that everything is incorporated. All that yeast mixture, olive oil, salt, sugar. Alright, I've been kneading for about 10 minutes and the dough looks nice and elastic. In fact, if you press on it, you can even see that it will give a little bit. So next what we're going to do is take a rather large bowl. We're going to spray it with some non-stick cooking spray. Give it a good spray. Okay, then what we're going to do is take our dough, fold it in on itself, kind of make a little ball. You can squish it together like that. Then what we're going to do is drop it in the bowl, smear it around, turn it over. Now what we're going to do is cover this with either a wet dish towel or a piece of plastic wrap. And what I'm going to do is I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to set this on top and let it proof for about an hour. That way it will double in size and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Hey again. Alright, as you can see, the dough has doubled in size. It's been rising for about an hour. Let's go ahead and pull the plastic off. You can see that it's a lot larger than it was before we put it to rise. So now what you want to do is lightly flour your surface. And you can go ahead and flop that out. Now we need to go ahead and press the excess carbon dioxide out of the dough, just like that. Okay, and then we can add a little more flour to our hands. Now what we want to do is knead this again for another couple of minutes. Not nearly the 10 minutes like we did earlier, but we do want to get the rest of those gases out and make sure that the dough is nice and elastic again. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So now what you want to do is spread the dough out into a rectangular shape, roughly quasi-rectangular. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I know this is going to sound a little strange, but you want to spread the dough out, like I said, into a slightly rectangular shape. And you want to make sure that the dough is as wide as the pan that you're going to be putting it in to bake. So once we have that roughly rectangular shape, I guess this is more ovular than anything, but that's perfectly fine. So we're going to take our pan, which is a 9x5 baking pan, spray it generously with some non-stick spray. Now what we're going to do is take this dough, and on the long side, you want to roll it up like you would a jelly roll. And you take the ends, tuck them under. With the seam side down, place it into your pan. And then with the sharpest knife that you have, make a slit about ½ inch down across the top of the bread. That way when the bread bakes, you'll have a nice split top loaf. So here's what it looks like in the pan. Go ahead and let it rise for another 30 minutes. After that, we're going to bake it in a 350 degree oven for 30 minutes. Let it cool for an hour, then we'll be able to dig in. Alright, it's been an hour, and through the magic of video editing, we now have a loaf of bread. We've spent 30 minutes letting it rise again in the pan, and another 30 minutes cooking it. Now that it's been cooked, we need to take it out of the pan and let it cool. We should let it cool for at least 30 minutes before trying to cut into it. If you try to cut into a loaf of bread that's too hot, then the bread will smoosh, I guess, and then you'll end up with a very short slice. And while it'll taste fine, it just won't look as pleasing as it could. So be patient. It smells delicious in here. The bread looks wonderful. We'll be able to enjoy it very soon. Okay, it's been 30 more minutes and our bread is cooled. I've gone ahead and sliced into it so you can see what it looks like on the inside. Nice and moist. A little dense maybe, but beautiful. Smells wonderful. And at this point, I know a lot of people would be reaching for the butter or preserves or something like that to put on the bread, but it's delicious just the way that it is. Delicious. especially if you're a bread fiend like I am. I mean, if I dropped it on the floor, I would still eat it. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave comments in the comment section. And the next time you have friends over for dinner, make them a loaf of bread. And then that way when they say, did you make this? You can say, me, yeah, I made that. Thank you.